Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? This is Enrique Sanchez of Spanish United. Today we have a very special guest. Would you be kind enough to introduce yourself on the show, please?
Hi, my name is Isaac Kim. I'm the executive director at KRC, which is the Korean Resource Center here in K-Town, LA. But we service all of Southern California with offices in K-Town as well as in the Orange County.
Perfect. 안녕하세요. 감사합니다.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing and trying to with your podcast and your organization.
Likewise. So as we had spoken through email, you were my first Korean guest. So it's been very difficult to get anyone from the Korean community. So I applaud you for being on the show. So one of the questions.
That sounds about right, and I'm very honored to be on your podcast.
Yes, yes. So one of the questions that we have in Spanish United is tell us a little bit about the KRC. How long have you been established, and what do you do? What services that you provide?
Yeah, sure. So KRC has actually been around for 40 years, since 1983. And it is a nonprofit organization that provides all sorts of services. And though we predominantly do serve the Korean community here in Southern California, that by no means do we reject anyone. We're here for the community. As you do know, Koreatown is actually 50% or a majority Latino and not Korean. So we have all sorts of people come in for our services, which include legal services, anything from naturalization, DACA, green card renewal, citizenship, tests and education. We provide other services and benefits, whether related to healthcare. And another big area that we help a lot of folks is in housing counseling. That's getting affordable housing, senior housing, low income housing. All that good stuff. So we're here really for the community and to serve their needs. We do all sorts of other events, whether that's during the pandemic, whether that was vaccine clinics where people give free vaccines. We do a lot of food distribution and just hold educational and different cultural events of all sorts.
Nice. I think it's very important because especially now with the pandemic that came and went and with the economy, it's very important that people that are at risk need to be involved in resources because a lot of people are suffering, especially with unemployment and poverty. So one of the things that we do in Spanish United is that we do community work. I started this foundation about three years ago, and we started from 10 people and it's evolved to about 10 people. I mean, if not 10 people, I mean 1,000 people, and it has created into different chapters. And one of the things that we do is that we specialize in Hispanic civil rights, and we also emphasize a lot on looking after the homeless and providing relief. And even though we are predominantly on a donation basis, we try what we can to try to help people. And I believe that working with the Korean Resource Center, Spanish United, I believe we could build bridges between Hispanic and the Korean community. And at the same time, we could work for the better good of both communities.
Absolutely. And in fact, I mean, congratulations on what you're doing with your foundation. And that is definitely what we need, not just here in LA, but everywhere. But we can start here. And to your point, that's what KRC looks to do as well, is to really try to help the people who are most vulnerable in our community. And oftentimes that is the low income community or people around us. And we're here to serve, and that's where our heart is, and where we've continued to serve for 40 years.
Nice, awesome. That is like so awesome. So I would like to ask, has the KRC ever done like any events or any type of interracial or intercultural relations between the Hispanic community and the Korean community?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we try our best to, and Definitely in the past, there was a lot more. The organization itself has gone through a little bit of restructuring in the past 5 years, which we've been a little less active in terms of organizing and outreach, in terms of actually having events rather than services. But in terms of, yes, our history, we look to collaborate and, hold hands with everyone in our community, whether that's the Latino community, the Black community, and other Asian communities, or anyone in our area. We love to collaborate, create coalitions, and really work together towards a common cause, which many of us have, whether that is feeding the hungry, or counseling for housing, or different legal services. So we're all about it, and we would love to do more in the future, which is why we're so excited, to do this podcast and to see what you guys are doing at Spanish United, as well as many others. But for instance, I mean, we actively do partner with different nonprofits such as Churla, which is, as you know, a very big immigrant organization, as well as many others. So yes, again, we love to partner and love to create win-win situations where we're working for the common good of the people in our community.
Right. Like one of the things that Spanish and I would like to do is that possibly in the future or at any time when you have something is that we're interested in speaking at one of your events, probably at your center, so we could introduce ourselves and introduce what Spanish United does, what our mission is, and what our goal is. At the same time, anyone in the Korean community that may have questions or would like to inquire more about the Hispanic community as a whole, that's what we're there for, is to engage and to dialogue.
No, that's awesome, and I think there's a huge need for that. Communication is the first, I guess, line to cross, and as long as our communities are communicating with each other, I think that's the best first step. And not just the first step, but really what we need to continue to work on and be very aware and intentional about communicating and over communicating, and be step in step and hand in hand with, and know what each organization and community is doing.
That's very important. Like here in the San Gabriel area, like I've done many community works and seminars with the Taiwan Center. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there's a huge Chinese Taiwanese community in this area, and I've done a lot of joint speeches, events with the Taiwanese community. I've also done speeches with the Rohingya community, the Hong Kong community, and even other Hispanic communities. Because Spanish United, we also emphasize inclusiveness of all Hispanics, because Hispanics, we're not a race or ethnicity, so Hispanics can be of any race.
Totally.
And we promote Hispanic unity between Hispanics, and to encourage Hispanics to work together as a collective, because what unites Hispanic people is language and culture. And it doesn't matter if we are in Mexico, Central America, or the Caribbean, we all speak the same language, and we have very similar cultures, even though we may have different countries. So that's what we do. At the same time, we also advocate for Hispanic civil rights, the civil human rights of the homeless people that are vulnerable, and at the same time to work with other groups of people or communities that may have been marginalized or excluded. Like for example, the Rohingya community is a community that's been excluded, for a long time by a lot of places, and we have also done works with them. And at the same time, we believe that when there is a constructive and a proactive communication between different parties, I think that could also help to dispel any stigma. Because right now we're living in a time that there's a lot of Hispanophobia or anti-Hispanic sentiment because of immigration and that type of thing. And we try to do what we can to advocate for Hispanics that are really, that are really like going through a lot. And I really feel that having these, conversations, especially, for example, with the Korean community, I think it can open open bridges and also open new opportunities between both groups.
Absolutely. And I mean, that is really awesome. You know, the fact that the Hispanic community does share the language because, as you know, I mean, oftentimes, well, more often than not, you know, Koreans or Chinese, whatever it may be, gets lumped into this whole category of this AAPI, which I mean, Pacific Islander. I mean, these, you know, we're lumping in these cultures, which include, you know, Hawaii and Samoa, and just kind of lumping it all into one basket and calling it AAPI, when really we have all these beautiful cultures and history and that are individual and so unique and beautiful. But at the same time, you know, here, and especially like you mentioned at this point in history and what we're all going through, is very similar. And I think that is kind of the immigrant experience, whether you're in the Hispanic community or the Asian community, is that, you know, there is a lot of pushback right now, even though we are in 2023, and it's a little bit shocking that we're moving in the opposite direction of where we thought we'd be going. But it is extra important, especially because of the current situation, to be in communication with each other, because we're all trying to, we're all dealing with similar things, especially in the minority or immigrant community, whether you're Hispanic or Asian. And we do need to fight for these things because, you know, what affects the Hispanic community, whether it's immigration or certain economic situations, it's very much linked together with any other immigrant, whether you're from Southeast Asia or East Asia or anywhere really. It really affects our communities as a whole.
Right, I agree with you, and I believe that especially now that there's been a lot of issues with a lot of anti-Asian hatred since the start of the coronavirus. I feel that there could be a common cause or a common denominator between Hispanics and Asians, because prior to the pandemic, even though Asians have been known as a model minority, but they've always been like invisible, that they're like economically active but politically invisible, sort of say. So I feel that with the pandemic, I feel that a lot of doors have been open, and at the same time, the Asian community as a whole, which is the AAPI, they could have something in common with the Latinx Hispanic community in terms of the same level of persecution in different ways. And I think that could open bridges, because I feel that with the Asian capital and the Hispanic manpower, both communities can actually have many opportunities of being a powerful force, but only if both groups are willing to, you know, put aside maybe some differences that may have happened in the past and work together for the future.
Absolutely. And I think it is optimistic. I mean, these problems have existed before the coronavirus or before the rise of, you know, the increase in Asian hate crimes in the past few years. But some of these issues, such as immigration or some of the injustices that have been experienced by both of our communities, have always been there. And, you know, it might have ruffled some feathers up in the past years where people become a little more awake and, I guess, to put it bluntly, angry about the situation, where it really stirs up some political activism. But I think it's important not to forget that, I mean, the solidarity between whether it's Hispanic, Black, or Asian, there have been groups that have been going, you know, been doing this for decades. And I think it's important to highlight that and learn from that and expand upon that and, you know, make it a more of a powerful movement now that we do have a little bit more of this awareness and are facing a lot of the similar issues. But rather than just starting something new, we need to continue to work together to really advance our causes and put aside the differences, which I think, you know, in a lot of cases has been done, and people are hopefully ready to move forward and work together. And because, you know, we're all fighting the same fight, we're all rowing in the same direction, and trying to see the same goals accomplished.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to ask, where do you see KRC in terms of the future? Like, what do you see like one of the goals, long-term goals that the KRC has?
Absolutely. In fact, yeah, thank you for that question. I would love to see KRC expand upon certain programs. We are very good, and I'm just so grateful to be part of an organization that has done so much good work in terms of helping folks in our neighborhood resolve certain issues, or whether it's legal services, social services, or housing counseling. Over the past 40 years, let alone the last few years, KRC has really helped thousands and thousands of people with these types of issues. What I would like to see in the future is, of course, those programs to continue to thrive and become bigger and better, but also that we would reactivate some of our other programs, whether that's cultural educational program, or organizing for certain causes within our community. And I think that in itself would give more visibility, more awareness, and really be not just more fun, but exciting to see, and really rally as many more people in the community, and to be aware of what's going on around them, what's certain issues people are facing in our community, and not just to turn a blind eye because everyone's comfortable, but really to understand that there's a huge need out there for so many people. And it's just a matter of really getting involved and stepping up, whether that's volunteering or doing whatever you can in whatever capacity, to fight for the people who are most vulnerable in our community.
Mhm. One of the long-term goals that Spanish United has is that we would like to establish a community center exclusively for Hispanic people, even though, we are open to everybody, but I just feel that there's not too many community centers or cultural centers for Hispanic people is what I've noticed. And I feel that if we are to establish a community center in every area that is Hispanic around the United States, I feel that's going to help tremendously in terms of keeping the young people out of gangs, out of trouble, provide tutoring, Spanish language courses, and many services, because I feel that in many Hispanic communities, there is a lack of resources. Like I see more, and again, I'm not going by stereotypes, but I'm just going by what I see, that, for example, here in Temple City, you have a Boys and Girls Club, you have cultural centers, but when you go to East LA, which is not far from here, you don't see any of that. And I'm trying to change that, because I feel that if we have community center like a Spanish United SU community center, I think that could serve as a beacon of hope for many Hispanic people that they feel that they don't have resources. Like I've spoken to many different people in East LA and Montebello and places where it's primarily Hispanic, and they told me the same thing, that they don't have places or resources like, let's say, the Asians do, the Armenians do. And I feel that that is something that is definitely needed. So that's one of the future goals that we have in Spanish United, is that hopefully in the long term, we could establish community centers to have the Hispanic people provided services, but at the same time be provided alternatives to gangs, to the social problems that affect our community tremendously.
Yeah, I think that's a great goal, and it definitely sounds like a great thing, and it's something that's super needed, especially for especially for the first generation and second generation who might have immigrated here recently. What I love, one thing I love a lot of things about KRC, but our slogan is 4 lines, but it's live right, know your roots, live in strength, and live in harmony. But I think the second one is really important to remember and often overlooked, is to know your roots, because that really brings a sense of not just pride, but a sense of belonging, and a sense of community, frankly. I mean, it sounds simple, but that in itself is something very powerful and very strong. And that can really rally up and stir up the community and individuals, just in the fact that, you know, we have a similar background and come from the same place.
I agree with you. And one of the mottos of Spanish United has is culture over color. So we emphasize
Awesome.
on culture over color because again, Hispanics come in all colors of the rainbow. Like people think that Hispanic is a certain appearance, but Hispanics come in all colors. Because remember, the Spanish Empire, you had Spaniards, you had African slaves, you had Native Americans, and you had, you know, the Asians and Arabs and other people that became the melting pot in Latin America. So everybody in Latin America has a mixture of all of those groups. You have people that may look more indigenous or more European or more African in appearance, but we all have that in our blood. So I emphasize culture over color because we have the same roots, we have the same blood. As much as many Hispanics may not want to understand that all of us have Spanish ancestry, no matter if we look more African, we look more indigenous, it's all in our blood. So every time we may deny a certain part of us, we're denying the other part of us that makes us. So I think that's been the success of Spanish United, that we've been able to unite Hispanics of different colors and, you know, work for a common goal that, hey, we may be of European background, African background, or indigenous background, but we have something in common. We're all Spanish speaking, we all have the same culture, and we are all from the same people. So, and I think it's very important because I feel that when Hispanics don't know their identity, and I've seen this with many cases, it's like they don't know who they are. And sometimes, you know, they get into trouble and that causes a lot of damage within the community. So, and like you said, it's very important that we know who we are, but it has to be taught from a very young age.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I mean, at any point, of course, younger the better, but as long as you're really understanding and educating ourselves on, you know, the history and the past and what's going on in our communities, I think that's, like you said, is so important.
So one final note is I wanted to thank you again for being on the show, and I wanted to apologize for the tardiness. You know, this can be an inconvenience, but I always like to give adequate time to my listeners, at the same time to my guest. And you know, for anyone in the KRC that wants to reach out to us, we are on all social media platforms. We are on Spanish United YouTube, we're on Spanish United Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also have a Cash App if anyone wants to, you know, donate. And as soon as I'm finished, I will email you and text you the podcast link, and you could share it to everyone over at the KRC. And we look forward and talking soon and working together for community work later on in the future.
Yes, no, thank you so much for having me. Thank you. It was a great conversation. And yes, let's definitely connect, and we would be happy to have Spanish United at a future event and work together to fight for our communities and the common goals that we have and causes in our communities. So really looking forward to that. And thank you so much again for having me.
It's my pleasure. Have yourself a wonderful evening. And again, kamsahamnida.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.